everyone, welcome back to Beyond the Veil Tarot and Astrology. My name is Candice Marie. Thanks for joining me. I'll be your astrologer today. Hopefully you guys are doing well. We're going to do some transit videos over the next week or so and talk about some of these ingresses that are taking place, which are actually pretty positive. Today we're going to be taking a look at the up and coming Venus transit through the sign of Taurus. If you guys like my content, you want to see more of it, click the bell button below. Make sure you're subscribed so you're alerted as to when we have new videos on the channel. We're here every Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, and Sunday, bringing you the news with what's going on in the cosmos. We've got weekly astro weather, monthly horoscopes, new and full moon reports, and much, much more, so you don't want to miss any of those updates throughout the week. Don't forget to like, comment, and share. It really helps the channel grow. If you're a first-time viewer, make sure you leave me a comment below and let me know where you're tuning in from. Give me a thumbs up and help the channel grow. I really, really appreciate it, you guys. It's so good for the algorithm. So yeah, let's talk a little bit about this transit. You know, if you guys haven't already seen the May horoscopes, they're already out. I talk about some of the ingresses this month, but I like to break them down as we're getting closer to the particular transits. If you guys stay tuned to the end, I'll tell you where Venus will be transiting for each and every one of the 12 signs, so you can kind of see what Venus is going to be bringing you. But yeah, the month of May is just so much sweeter, so much better, and we're going to see so many darn good transits. So basically, Venus is going to be transiting through the sign of Taurus from April 29th through May 23rd, 2024. So roughly about a month with this transit. We're looking at Venus, right? Goddess of love and beauty and harmony and relationships and resources. And Venus is coming home. She's in her domicile in this particular sign. So when we think about Venus, Venus rules over things like love and money, but also manifestation, okay? Physical embodiment. That's what we like to kind of think about when we think about Venus in the sign of Taurus. Venus has associations traditionally with Taurus and Libra, and it has some kind of connection to our sense of physical resources, pleasure, what tastes good, feels good, smells good. And Venus governs over things relating to harmony or aesthetics, life's enjoyments and pleasure. So when Venus is moving through one of her home signs, we're able to really get the richness of that particular transit more than other time periods. So we're probably going to notice that Venus moving through this sign in a very physical, pleasurable way. We are able to really get in touch with what we love and express love better. And this will benefit forming relationships and engaging with the physical material world. Things like our finances or our artistic pursuits are likely to benefit from this as well. You know, like I said, Venus is moving through her domicile. So, Taurus is home for Venus, or one of the homes, where Taurus is I possess, I have. Libra is what we share, what we create. So there is this kind of lesson when planets go through Taurus, which we're experiencing the whole next month. That's a lot of like, what do I bring to the table? What do I possess, right? What do I have? And this can be in a sense of physical security, resources, money, food, possessions, but it can also be a sense of really knowing our values and what we value in our life and what we value when it comes to ourself and also our self-esteem. So I like the transits moving through this sign because I really think it's really helping us focus on, okay, what's most important to me? What do I need to be building on? What do I need to be developing more? Where do I need to be practicing a little bit more self-care so I can kind of better show up, especially as we're getting to Libra season later in 2024, in relationships, right? Now the South Node is going through Libra, so we're kind of dealing with like this collective karmic untangling in relationships. It's rough out there. I know I've been hearing some stories, especially coming out of eclipse season now. We're starting to see some of the changes that have been happening since the South Node solar eclipse that we had in Libra, that was taking place at the end of March. The solar eclipse that was happening in Aries with Chiron the beginning of April, which has really been about healing, right? And how we are doing on a personal level and how we are getting more in kind of tune with our own identities and where that's impacting relationships. So if you've been kind of deep in that in the last month or so, now this is kind of the rebuilding, reintegrating into the self period. I do think that Venus moving through this sign is going to be really positive for us because it's most comfortable when it's in Taurus or when it's in Libra. So it's going to make it particularly powerful. Now, when I think of Venus expressing its energy in the sign of Taurus, especially in relations to love, beauty, and material pleasures, you know, it's moving through Taurus, which is a very kind of practical, earthly, you know, matter-of-fact, simplifying kind of sign. So we may feel like we're, you know, approaching relationships or resources or money in a very practical, kind of grounded, stable kind of way. If you're somebody who has Venus in Taurus, or maybe, you know, Venus in the second house, or, you know, planets in the second house, you know, that typically you're going to have a strong appreciation for the finer things in life, or, you know, for, you know, earthly matters. You might be more romantic or more sensual. You might value, right, stability or comfort or security when it comes to relationships or when it comes to finances. So I really think that even if you don't have these placements, it's going to be a wonderful time to really start kind of reevaluating, okay, where can I be building something better, stronger, more solid? Where am I investing in things that I love? What are my personal values? How are they changing or becoming upended at this time? Think about the most recent Jupiter-Uranus conjunction that we had just over this last week, where even if you're not seeing the physical effects of it yet, something is being seeded where we're kind of bucking something about our old sense of values. We're making dramatic sweeping changes when it comes to what we're purchasing, what we're consuming, what we believe in, what we value, especially, you know, it's so much about Taurus is about money, because it rules things like bank institutions and anything in regards to physical possessions and materials and things that we might collect or value. So collectively with that Jupiter-Uranus conjunction, I think everybody is starting to really ask a lot of questions and talk a lot about where they're investing, you know, what they're purchasing, what they're consuming, what they're eating. And we're learning a lot about the future of, I think, what is going to be valuable through having a lot of these kind of conversations, you know, with other people. Uranus is a very social planet. So as we're coming into this Venus transit, likely through this sense of freeing ourselves from a system, from consumerism, from, you know, financial challenges or burdens, there is this sense of being like, wow, actually life can be so much more beautiful, so much more simple, so much more matter of fact and grounded when we're getting out of this sense of more is more. And so maybe you guys have heard me kind of say in my recent videos throughout this last year, just, I mean, going through a ton of, you know, Uranus in opposition to all my Scorpio planets and Jupiter now in opposition to my Scorpio planets. It's been simplifying things and being like, okay, wanting to work smarter, not harder. And also making smart decisions with money, resources, and values to simplify my life personally, so I'm not feeling like I am kind of stuck in the consumer cycle. So you guys might start feeling this because collectively, as we see planets making contacts with outer planets, which we'll see throughout this transit, there is definitely this ripple effect out, you know, in the collective of being like, oh yeah, it's time to let this go. So we'll get into that as we go through the video. Some important things to kind of think about, some keywords that kind of come up for me when I think about, you know, Venus going through Taurus is like sensual, right? I think of the second house as what smells good, tastes good, feels good. And it can be everything from physical embodiment, how we're feeling in our body, to, you know, working more with feeling comfortable in our own skin, working more also with getting kind of back down to basics. And so it can mean that you're opting for something that's more natural, right? And your senses are saying, no, I don't want something, you know, synthetic. I want something natural. You might be craving different types of food. You might be craving, you know, different types of like intimate connections, because Venus can be about that as well. So very sensual kind of aspects come up when we see a lot of planets in Taurus. I also think of being grounded. And whether that's grounded in your decisions, you know, relationships, money, whatever, or grounding techniques and that connection that we have, you know, to the earth, Are we making more of a conscious effort to be outside, you know, walk around with our shoes off, do some yoga in the yard, walk the dog, do some gardening, grounding our energies? That is the lesson that we kind of get from Taurus, because Taurus is the steer or the cow, right? That wants to hang out in the field and it wants to graze. And it just loves that kind of simplicity of being out in the elements and also being able to take its time and get everything that it needs. We can see themes revolving around materialism with Taurus. We can see with all signs, we can see, you know, different kind of ends of the spectrum where we can see more positive kind of, you know, manifestations of it. We can see, you know, some kind of darker shadow sides to that as well. Materialism does come up when I think about Taurus. It can be how much is too much. You know, where are we overly consuming? Where are we hoarding? You know, where are we holding on? Sometimes it can be kind of like that Four of Coins energy. That's like, okay, if we're holding on to something too tight and we're being rigid or we're being stuck in a situation, we're not letting things flow. But there can be a sense of also opting for quality. So I would say with a transit like this, it's going to be hard to kind of determine quality over quantity because, you know, Jupiter is involved. So there is going to be this sense of give me more. I want the more, you know, the sweeter, the finer, the more expensive, the richer. But Uranus being thrown in the mix can be actually saying, hey, hold on a second. You know, this can kind of be like our collective downfall. And wouldn't it be nice to get out of that sense of more is more? And we don't have to be so fixated on the more if we're actually simplifying things. You know, Taurus is known for being stable, right? Kind of connected to grounded, loyal, very loyal because it is a fixed earth sign. So it has a tendency to be kind of like a dog with a bone, you know, fixated on having something that they possess or that is theirs or that they cherish or that they value. It is known for being indulgent. Certainly, you know, the shadow side of Venus can be indulgent, lazy, you know, can also be you know, fixated on, you know, possessions in relationships or, you know, have a trouble kind of defining love versus possession, I think sometimes, because Taurus energy is known for being like, that's mine, you know, don't touch it. But earthly, patient, creative also because this is a sign ruled by Venus. So it has that connection to art and beauty and femininity. And also romance. So these are some themes that you're going to notice more with Venus going through this sign, but also just, oh my God, just the stellium of planets that are going to move through Taurus over this next month is going to be something else. Now, ways to best work with this energy while Venus is in Taurus, I think number one is going to be about embracing sensuality. Indulging in activities that engage your senses, such as cooking, gardening, listening to soothing music, you know, self-care, sampling, you know, different types of food, getting more involved in nature. Something I love to do when there's a lot of Taurus transits or when there's, you know, second house transits going on in my chart is like make, you know, different choices when it comes to perfume. And so, you know, Scorpio can be kind of connected to scent and smell, but Taurus is more about that, oh, you know, what do I like? How do I want to identify? What am I identifying with? And yeah, it's like that marker that's connected to the second house, which is also personal style. And so something else to kind of think about, you know, in recent weeks, I've said to a lot of people, well, you know, with the solar eclipse in Aries and the retrograde, not the best time to be making changes to your appearance, especially with Venus having gone through Aries and Mars having, you know, been making connections to Saturn and Neptune. But something that we're going to see throughout this transit is that Mars is moving into Aries and Venus is moving into Taurus. So we've got both the North and the South ruler moving through their home signs. So this transit is wonderful for if you want to make an indulgent, you know, investment in something. If you're wanting to say, hey, I'm getting a new wardrobe or I'm buying some new furniture or I'm wanting to buy a bunch of, you know, plants for the house or garden, or maybe I'm getting a makeover or I'm getting a consultation for something, you know, aesthetic. Wonderful time to be doing that. So that can be about embracing sensuality too, where you're kind of opening up to this sense of being like, okay, I would like to, you know, kind of create or beautify something. Focus on stability, you know, take time when you can throughout the next month for a number of reasons, but especially because Venus is about where we're opening up, right? It's like a flower. Take time to ground yourself, prioritize stability in your relationships, finances, and personal life. Take your time, right? We can't rush the bull or the cow. It does not like to be rushed. So we want to think about when it comes to making decisions in relationships, do I stay or do I go, right? Taking a kind of stable, practical approach. When we think about money, you know, am I buying this right now, or am I going to kind of sit on it and really reevaluate whether or not I need it? And for some of you guys, these impulses are going to be stronger because Jupiter is there. But nevertheless, I do feel like this is about approaching things in a much more peaceful, balanced, logical, grounded kind of direction. Now, practicing patience is something that comes with that. And I would say allowing yourself and your relationships to grow at a natural pace without forcing progress. I know for some of us recently, we've been kind of going through the cosmic washing machine, and it feels like progress has been forced. At least that's been my feeling on the matter. I don't know if it's been the solar eclipse in Aries, which was like really kind of prompting all of us, you know, to kind of suddenly get out of our own way and initiate change. I don't know if it's been the retrograde that's been making it difficult to communicate and speak up. I don't know, but I do think that, you know, now is the time to really focus on, okay, whatever has happened has happened. As we proceed forward, you know, what is it that we're wanting to grow, and like letting things come to fruition on their own time. Because Taurus does deal with earth and plants and things that grow, and Venus is about nurturing, we're going to learn that if we want a healthy relationship, we have to create that space for it to grow. If we want to have commitment, we're having to practice, you know, time and dedication and getting to know one another so it can kind of blossom into this beautiful thing. Same thing with finances. It's not going to be immediate gratification, although some of you guys may get lucky towards the end of the transit as Venus is meeting with Uranus and Jupiter. But we're going to be learning that, you know, good things take time. And whether it's like an epic roast in a crock pot, right, very Taurus energy, or if it's a garden bed, or if it's an investment, these things are going to take time, and we're going to have to be patient to really allow them to come into full bloom or fruition. So practice patience. Appreciate the material world. I'm going to give you guys the green light to do that with so many planets moving through Taurus. I think a lot of this is about taking time to enjoy physical comforts and pleasures that bring you joy in your life. You know, have the expensive glass of wine. Don't deny yourself that. Allow yourself to treat yourself every now and then. You know, indulge in things that are going to be the finer side of life, but it doesn't necessarily mean like champagne and bonbons, although for some Taurus placements, I'm sure that's your guys' favorite. But it could mean, okay, you're gonna go to Home Depot and you're gonna splurge and you're gonna buy the flowers, right? Or you're gonna make more of a conscious effort to have, you know, nicer things in the home, or you're kind of putting out the nicer duvet color, or you're spending a little bit more for the high quality sweater. You know, these kinds of things, and not because it's a materialistic thing, it's a quality thing, it's a comfort thing, it's a Venusian thing, which is about indulging in something that is going to be a little bit higher caliber. Nurture creativity and engage in activities that allow you to express your artistic side, such as painting, writing, and creating, crafting, right? I think, you know, some of the things that I love with Venus and Taurus is, you know, essential oils, massage, painting, sculpture, pottery, anything to do with like lawn or landscaping, or, you know, taking care of plants. Yeah, like these kinds of things that are going to be about beautifying, but working with physical things, basically. So for all of you guys, it could look different. You're going to have Taurus in a different area of your chart, but I definitely feel like these can be things that can be a little bit more enjoyable during this particular transit. Now, I also encourage you to cultivate romance, especially because Venus is going to meet with Uranus, and it means that we're going to need different things in relationships. That might mean something new, unusual, exciting, kind of switching things up a little bit. And then we will see Venus kind of meet with Jupiter, so it can bring us extra sweetness, extra romance. It can be really good news for relationship growth and development, and breaking through barriers that we have kind of built up within relationships. So definitely be open to romance, you know, create a romantic atmosphere in your relationships by focusing on the small gestures of love and affection. And when I think about Taurus, I think about like kind of setting the ambiance, and it can be like where having dinner and lighting candles creates a completely different dynamic than leaving all of like the, you know, like the fluorescent lighting on. Really simple kind of change, but it creates a very different vibe for the meal, right? Or, if you were to, put food on white plates versus putting them on decorative plates, right? It's going to make it more appealing and kind of inviting. Think about the small things that you can do that can be kind of creating more, ambiance and making you more so open to romance. Taurus is about physical touch, so it can also mean that you're making more of an effort when it comes to connecting with other people, and gestures that's about showing appreciation or love. And whether that's putting your hand on somebody's shoulder and showing them, hey, I hear you, offering hugs, or offering your partner a massage. These can be things that can be helping you connect more in an intimate way and cultivating romance. Focus on building loyalty, because I feel like this is a time that's really fostering that with a lot of these transits. Fostering loyalty in relationships, being dependable, honest, consistent in your actions. That's one thing I'll give, Taurus credit for. Generally, when they say they're going to do something, they do it. They follow through. They're solid, like the rock. It cannot be moved. So I think right now is a time to really not dig your heels in, but if you're committing to something, whether it's a job, a person, a new routine, a habit, like taking care of someone or something, this is the time to be like, okay, I'm going to do it, and I'm going to be consistent, and I'm going to be loyal to this thing or to this person, and I'm going to be like immovable when it comes to some of these changes that are happening, because Uranus is involved in this mix as well. Connect to nature, spend time outdoors, connect with the earth and appreciate the beauty and its bounty. Go outside and pick flowers, go and make a conscious effort to maybe eat your lunch outside if you can, if you have a lunch break, go somewhere where you can be out in the element. Make more of a conscious effort, I think, to try to do things outside and have appreciation, or bringing the outdoors in. Open your windows, right? Let the sunshine in. Anything to be able to kind of connect to that element, because that's really going to help bring us a lot more stability, I think, and feel a lot more grounded. Practice gratitude regularly is something else I would recommend, especially for people and things in your life that bring you happiness and security. So you want to phrase this in the I have if you don't have these things already, but if you do, even more of a reason to give appreciation for them. Thankful for, the stability in my life, my health, my family, the roof over my head, a stable job, food on the table, very simple things. Taurus is about, hey, I have everything that I need, right? And so what we need and what we want are two different things. And so I think that we're going to be thinking a lot about this throughout this transit. Where can I kind of rethink what I need and kind of actually find beauty and pleasure in the simple things? And you may be thinking back also on times where, you had less, but maybe you were happier. You had a smaller home, and it was quaint, but it was yours. And it was before, all these other like life changes may have happened. And maybe now you have a mortgage and you have a bigger space and it's beautiful. But some of you guys may be thinking about downsizing and kind of realizing that throughout the next couple of months, less may actually be more. And a lot of that's because it's creating more time to be able to have rest, relaxation, pleasure, kind of like leisure time, because, that's really what Venus is about. And embrace comfort, prioritize self-care, create a comfortable, nurturing environment for yourself and for your loved ones in any which way, shape, and form. So we will talk about where this is going through for the 12 signs, but I will say that Taurus is one of the signs that's like, yeah, self-care, like they're gonna opt for the comfortable clothing. They're gonna opt for probably the more, I think, the healthier or the kind of heartier meal. They may be willing to spend a little bit more on the higher quality, like object or material. They're doing the face masks, right? They're doing anything that's going to be about basically self-care and being able to embrace comfort. And so sometimes when we're dealing with, planets that might like really expand some of this Taurus energy, like Jupiter, there can be this sense of being like, well, what is comfort and what is like overindulgence, right? Like what's like, well, I guess what the term, they call it like rotting, where they like sit in bed all day. I guess that's what Gen Zers call it, rotting, versus being like, oh, I'm just like binging on, some TV. We're going to have to reevaluate and ask ourselves, am I prioritizing comfort and, gluttony and overindulgence too much? Am I doing it in the name of self-care? So, I do feel like there is enough balancing energies throughout this transit with aspects to Saturn that I don't really see it getting out of hand. even to some extent, you know, the Jupiter-Uranus transit, it is kind of being bound or lassoed by Saturn. That's like, okay, I'm not going to let this get too far. But still be asking yourself, you know, am I embracing comfort? Do I need more comfort? Do I need more leisure? Or am I doing a little bit too much? But you'll see when Venus comes in conjunction with Jupiter. All right, so in terms of like money and finances, one other thing that I would say is that with Venus going through this part of the sky, it can lead to increased financial stability and growth. And I'm going to double down on that, especially when Venus starts like nuzzling up to Jupiter. We'll see Venus hit Uranus first, which can be a little bit of like a razzle dazzle with the markets or with finances. And it can be like a shakeup, but I think that we'll realize and recognize like, okay, whatever is changing right now is actually a positive thing. And we're thinking more about future financial security. And ultimately, it's a good thing, whatever ends up kind of happening. Then we'll see Venus go into Gemini. It's going to trine Pluto. So generally, a lot of like the shakeups that come from some of the transits this month with Venus is going to lead to bigger, better things. So it is possible that during this transit, you know, we're going to notice that there is more of a focus on a natural inclination towards accumulating wealth and enjoying the finer things in life. So it can be a time for some people, depending on your personal astrology, where investments may yield good returns and financial decisions are likely to be more prosperous. Yeah, I definitely think so. You know, I'll give you the dates that I think that are going to be better for that. For some people, you could be going through other transits and it may not apply to you. We are going to see Venus behave stronger in certain houses. Okay, so for example, for like Aries rising, you know, Venus through the second house is going to be stronger. For Scorpio rising, Venus going through your seventh house is going to be stronger, right? Maybe we'll see this also for Libra risings because it's going to go through the eighth house. But some of the signs I think are going to benefit more when it comes to money, resources, and possessions. So we'll just have to see which signs those are. And then, you know, I do think that we're going to see that there is this focus on stability, whether it's relationships or finances, and long-term commitments in general to what we're investing in, what we're buying, what we're kind of accumulating, or who we're actually committing to. So we might just find that we're more drawn to traditional values. We might find that we're looking to kind of find someone or something and stick with it and strengthen our finances or our relationships. And definitely a time where there's going to be more pleasure for the long and short of it. Okay, let me take you through some of the aspects. I want to talk about Venus's trek that's coming up here. You know, obviously, some of you guys are, you know, watching this around, I think, like the 25th. So you're watching this prior to this ingress taking place. It's been some rocky stuff, guys. We've had Venus kind of in the mix with the retrograde. We saw Mercury conjunct Venus. There's been a lot of reassessment, rearrangement. We also saw that eclipse. So just, I think, Venus leaving Aries, where, you know, it's no longer going to be in a Mars-ruled sign, it's going to bring a huge shift. And, you know, in a way, Venus is kind of like also being reborn here because Venus is coming into her home sign. Okay, so we're going to see the first big transit will be taking place on the 29th of April. In just a couple days, Venus will move into the sign of Taurus. So that's when we're going to first kind of feel this shift. Obviously, if you are ruled by Venus, so if you are a Taurus or a Libra, sun, moon, or rising. Obviously, you guys know me. I really focus on the rising signs primarily, but you can get something good out of the sun and moon signs as well. But for those of you guys ruled by Venus, Venus is your chart ruler, this is going to be more prominent for you. So you're going to feel this a little bit more strongly. Now, when Venus first moves into Taurus, she's going to hit 0 degrees, all right? And we will see, like the day prior, the 28th, the moon in Capricorn will start kind of, you know, coming into a trine with Venus. So I think we're going to kind of reach some of that kind of sweetness, I think, right off the bat, kind of the evening of the 28th going into the 29th. Now, just a day later, one of the first things we're going to see is that Venus is going to start coming into a square with Pluto. So you guys are going to want to watch. I think we're definitely going to feel this because the moon is going to be involved in this particular square. This will be starting kind of midday on April 30th. Notice that the moon is going to come into conjunction with Pluto. So on an emotional level, we're like, ah, I'm melting. You know, there is some kind of like breakdown that's happening. Simultaneously, this will be the third quarter square. So if you think back to when we had the most recent new moon, now we're having a square that's kind of happening. So everything is kind of closing out. Probably feeling like today's like a little discombobulated, right? So the moon will conjunct Pluto, the moon squares Venus. It's hard to emotionally relate. There is some kind of breakdown that's going on with either finances or relationships. And then we're going to see Venus hit 2 degrees. So that's going to happen in the PM hours, April 30th. But as soon as Venus gets into Taurus, it starts immediately kind of coming into the square with Pluto. So you guys are going to feel that the first couple days. What happens when Venus squares Pluto? All right. So if we've got Venus, which is pleasure, money, resources, abundance, especially in Taurus, physical things, money, food, whatever. The opening square, which is a hard angle to Pluto, is like a Mars energy. So when you see squares in astrology, it means that two sides are kind of like battling it out, like they're kind of like duking it out. And it's trying to get them to find like a solution, right? So what does Pluto want? Power, corruption, manipulation, control, transformation, transmutation. Pluto in Aquarius is collective transformation. And this is at a 2. And PS, okay, we're going to see at the beginning of May, I think on the 2nd, Pluto's going to turn retrograde. So Pluto is stationing, basically. It's getting ready to retrograde. So we're starting to see like all of this dark side of Pluto emerging. Quite literally seeing this recently, where we're seeing collective groups of people who are protesting and, everything that's going on with the Palestinian-Israeli conflicts across universities, right? So this could be one of them, although I think part of it's also the eclipse and the retrograde, where younger people are getting upset and they're getting angry and they're having discussions about war conflicts, right? And they're protesting. But I would say revolutionary energy is Aquarius. So I think the moon conjunct Pluto can represent where there is this boiling point and it's starting to come into squares with, Venus. So it can represent where there is some kind of collective trauma, drama breakdown and the impact that that's having on our physical experience, the impact that that's having on our resources and our values. I'm anticipating some kind of, conflict perhaps that's coming up revolving around environmental issues. I'm anticipating there's going to be some pressure revolving around mounting, banking issues or conversations about finances and resources. Most likely that's what's going to kind of come up here. But make no mistake, the square is at 2 degrees. And 2 degrees is a solid degree. It's a Taurus degree. So this is much more likely about where there's conflict of people talking about, I feel like we should be doing this with the money, and other people saying, well, we should be doing that. Or this is what I value. And they're like, no, this is what we should be valuing. And so butting heads over what's going on with money. Politics also is Aquarius. So what's going on politically, people talking about, we should or should not be sending money to these places and whether or not we're, supporting these things. I feel like we're going to see some of that as well. Mars is also now in Aries at this point. So it's kind of feeding off of the sextile to Mars, where I do think people are going to be a little bit more intense than usual, right? Even though Venus wants peace, peace is hard to find when Venus squares Pluto. So not a good day for trying to force financial issues, relationship issues, trying to make massive changes or overhauls or things revolving around money. I don't think that that's going to go well with that particular square. So watch for that. Okay, so then we've got a bit of time here, all right? So it's, Venus is moving out of the square. Awesome, like to see it. We're not going to see much going on until closer to May the 13th. Now, I will mention this, that there will be a new moon in Taurus, okay? So that's going to be on the 7th. I'm just kind of throwing this in here because we don't really have anything until the 13th. But when we have a new moon in Taurus, the ruling planet is Venus, okay? So we've got two really great new moons this month in May, thank goddess. But this will be a new moon in Taurus ruled by Venus. Venus will be within, 8 degrees of the sun. So it's combust. It's kind of burning up a little bit, but still it is kind of, a sweet aspect having Venus in its domicile. And obviously this massive stellium in Taurus. Now it's behind the sun, all right? So it can represent the new moon. It can represent where there's hidden blessings that are coming. There are things that are getting ready to physically materialize that we haven't seen yet. There are going to be, things that we have been working really hard for that are going to begin to start to really manifest and kind of develop over the immediate next month. So think about, early May to early June. New moons take 6 months to totally materialize. And if you guys saw my new moon in Taurus video, you know that I showed you guys the full moon that's going to be in Taurus in the fall of 2024. And it's like almost exactly conjunct Uranus. So think of this period as a very fertile garden, and we're planting seeds about where we would like to be in 6 months' time. How much money do we want to have in the bank? How physically secure do we want to be? How do we want to feel in our bodies? How self-sufficient are we? What do we actually possess, hold, or kind of have within our homes? Things like that, right? So this is a really good new moon for manifesting. Lots of Jupiter-Uranus-y conjunction stuff here. So it's like very maverick, sudden opportunity kind of energies. And then the sextiles to Saturn is saying, if you can dream it, we can build it. But you need a vision to be able to actually figure out, okay, what are we going to build? We're not building houses without blueprints, right? We're not, going and digging up dirt and making renovations and things without having a plan and measuring things and knowing exactly what's going to go where, or looking at kind of like the 3D, projected image of what the house will look like or the building will look like. That's very much Saturn in Pisces. So it's saying we need to have some kind of structure and idea and like belief in what we're creating. We have to really focus on, especially the feeling. Venus is feeling. So what does it feel like to hit the lottery, right? What does it feel like to pay off your mortgage? What does it feel like to have, immaculate health, or to have a solid space and feel safe and secure? Well, we got to get into the frequency, right? We have to get into the frequency, or I guess Esther Hicks would say the vortex. They would say the vortex of what it feels like to be in that energy. So much of Taurus is about how do we feel? And if we're living in flight or fight, then we're not able to calm the nervous system. We're constantly worrying about the future, and we can be finding that we're like, doom spending and, consuming everything and like freaking out. When in reality, all we really need to do is just calm that down, be focused on the present, not worrying about the past or stressed out about the future, because the future is made right now. And so much about the future is this Jupiter-Uranus. What's going on with money, right? What's going on with resources? What's going on with farmers and agriculture and all of that stuff? And you can future trip, but this is a new moon that's better spent, I think, manifesting and being like, nope, I'm staying in my lane. This is what it's going to feel like in 6 months' time when I have absolutely everything that I need. Very, very, very important to kind of keep that in mind as we go through this new moon. And if you haven't seen that video, go check it out. I put it out for you guys. It's a lot of good news after that really, really horrible full moon in Scorpio. All right, so let's take this to the 13th. And on the 13th, we're going to see Venus sextile Saturn. Okay, so we've got Venus that will be, let's see, let's bring this back a little bit. There we go. Venus will sextile Saturn here earlier in the day, right here at 17 degrees. So similar to how I said, Saturn was sextiling the new moon. Saturn provides patience, commitment, timing, structure, maturity, and it's grounding. So we're seeing some of the same stuff. And what's cool is that, Saturn is basically saying to Venus, yes, I will, hold space so you can grow. I will create the boundary. I will, oversee the project. I will make sure that it kind of has consistency and form, and that, you're meeting all of the necessary requirements to let something grow. But remember, Pisces is about what we believe in. It's about how we feel. It's about our sacrifice. It's about the collective. And this can be, just generally, the collective fear, the collective depression, the collective, issues revolving around scarcity and immigration, because Pisces is about immigration, and that impact that that's having on finances, food, and resources. But sextiles are positive. So it's actually saying, all right, so we've been in that, right? I think it's pretty safe to say we've been in that pretty much since about, February, March. And now we're like, we're going to do something about it. So rather than being afraid of not having enough, we're going to grow, we're going to invest, we're going to accumulate, we're going to collect, we're going to come up with a solution. And I think that's also wonderful with Mars being in Aries. It's like people are going to be feeling so much more of like a can-do attitude. So what happens when Venus sextiles Saturn? Things grow, money grows, relationships get stronger. There is a sense of being able to kind of, marry that sense of like commitment and structure with pleasure, beauty, and consistency. We may not feel like it's as hard to see some of these things actually kind of move forward. We might feel like, okay, we're not feeling restricted. We're feeling like we're in the groove. Everybody knows what it feels like after you've like committed to like a new, a new pattern or a new routine. Once you hit your stride, and for some people it's a week, for other people it's like a month or two, but once you hit that stride where you're like, okay, this is becoming second nature, you just keep doing it. That's kind of how I see the Venus sextile Saturn personally, right? Now, I keep thinking about in the background, like I said, South Node in Libra, anything that's happening with Venus is reverberating off of that South Node. So for a lot of people, it's collective letting go of old relationship habits. It's moving away from certain partnerships. It's letting go of certain alliances. It's not relying on other people, not people pleasing, not focusing on, relationships for surface reasons or for, just for social reasons, and like learning not to be codependent. So much of like the Aries, energy of the last month is about, okay, who am I? What am I doing? What's my path? And then the Taurus is more kind of embodiment, how I feel now that I have prioritized myself, right? So this can also be some of the results that are coming, the better self-esteem, the making more rational decisions, making smarter investments, making better moves with your money, being more mindful of what you actually hold, possess, or value. And you start to see that kind of blossom as well now that your values are changing. And I think a lot of this is, it's being shown out in the world. We're seeing a lot of people that are actually leaving certain corporate sponsorships, right? Saying, you know what, I don't care if I lose a sponsor because I'm really holding true to my morals, to my ethics, to what I believe in, to what I value. And I value these things. And I don't want to be paid off by somebody just because, they're going to support me, and I'm not going to allow that to impact my values. So we can see that people are more willing to part ways with client relationships or professional relationships, or they're saying, you know what, I can't see myself paying, what I've been paying for this hairstylist or for this accountant. Like, I'm going to do it myself. And so we will see huge shifts that I think that are going to be going on where people are going to be less consumed with the financial implications, more consumed with how that's actually going to be impacting their sense of like morals and ethics, right? Jupiter things, but Taurus can be about values. So a lot of people are saying, no, it's not about the money. It's the point. It's the principle of the matter. And I think we're going to see a lot of people that are going to start kind of saying that stuff. So that's cool. All right. So then we're going to take this to the 18th where things start to get colorful. Okay. So this is when Venus approaches her conjunction to Uranus. And as you can see, when Venus conjuncts Uranus, it will be at 23 degrees. Right around here. All right, so what happens with Venus conjunct Uranus? Okay, a lot of textbook like cookbook astrology is going to be like, oh, that's the divorce transit, or that's when suddenly somebody breaks up with you, or there is some unexpected kind of hang up with money or resources. Sure, yeah, those things can happen. Yeah. But I think there's some other interesting astrology that's going on at the same time. As Venus conjuncts Uranus, there is this sense of needing freedom in relationships. But it can also be, this is when people are like, I'm going to go off and color my hair pink, or, I'm deciding I want to wear different colors, or I'm finally throwing out my old wardrobe and I'm starting over. Taurus is pleasure, right? And it's also about how we seek pleasure, what we find pleasurable. Some people might decide that they're totally sick of listening to rap music and now they want to listen to classical music, which I think a lot of people are going to start doing because Taurus is about what is classical and conservative or traditional. I think you're going to see that there's going to be some trends in fashion that's going to be more about what is beautiful is actually simple. What's beautiful and what's up and, kind of new and being sought after is natural beauty, clean beauty products, abolishing makeup, making decisions to have things that are organic or natural, that we might see trends that are emerging in relation to these things. This will be at 23 degrees. So this is also a very Uranian kind of twist. This is when things speed up. This is when things kind of blow up. And Aquarius energy is about sudden, fast, futuristic. So we see this day where, yeah, there are some pretty hectic conjunctions happening at some crazy degrees, right? And obviously Venus is the dispositor of Uranus. So, there's that. And at the same time, the sun is conjuncting Jupiter, which some you know, kind of mainstream astrologers will tout as the luckiest day of the year. I kind of see this as whatever happens on the 18th and the 19th, whatever we shake free of, whatever we decide that we're going to stop dating, eating, consuming, possessing, or holding on to, may actually be the best thing that ever happened to us. And there may be some, you know, great blessing that arises from what we're actually willing to free ourselves from. The moon is going to be in Libra, which is ruled by Venus, which means this is going to be an exceptional transit because, you know, the moon is reverberating off of, oh, shocks and surprises going on with the banking market or crypto or whatever, you know. And for some people, it's going to be like, oh my God, the stock market's plunging. And other people are going to be like, yeah, but my investment's doing great, right? It could happen. But as the moon goes through Libra, it will come in touch with the South Node. So it is kind of talking about how changes in relationships or values or how we're looking at things like socially has a huge impact on what we possess or what we own. A little bittersweet. I'm personally, you know, it's not often that I look at a transit and go like, I don't really know what's going to happen. But this is one of those times, and it's not even so much just because of these two transits, it's more because of the moon coming into conjunction with the South Node at the same time that Mars is coming into conjunction with the North Node. And when Mars is in Aries in general, you know, it's a very kind of fighting, spirited, pioneering, get out of my way energy. But when it's meeting with that North Node, it's going to be like Mars on steroids. So it is going to make some people extremely entrepreneurial and pioneering and jumping into things and combative and super, super feisty. So it's going to be weird to see, like, you know, going into the 19th, I'll show you, where the moon is going to hit the South Node and Mars is going to hit the North Node. So I am anticipating there is going to be some kind of significant event on the 18th or the 19th that can be connected to war, right? Mars North Node, especially because it's at a Taurus degree. So that can be about physical moves, military moves, investment, spending, you know, buying things, possessing things, you know, getting ready or in preparation physically for some kind of combat. And certainly for the war pigs that are heavily invested in the, you know, the war and all of that and anything relating to that, you know, the stocks. Some people may do very well. We might see something kind of bump. But as the moon conjuncts the South Node, energetically, everybody's like, oh my God, what's happening? Like, why are we not able to find peace? You know, why are we not able to you know, relate to one another? And we're going to realize that a lot of it is for, I think, very selfish, motivated, materialistic reasons. You know, land grabs is very much Taurus, Jupiter, Uranus, Venus. It's like, we want these resources. We want to have this area. We want to control certain areas because of the natural minerals, the food, you know, the resources that are going to be coming from these spaces. It's not just about the money from war. It's about wanting to protect spaces that are deemed valuable for some reason. So yeah, there's a lot kind of going on the 18th and the 19th. So then we're going to have on the 23rd, okay, so just a couple days later, right here, we're going to see that Venus is going to come into conjunction with Jupiter, arguably also a very positive transit, okay? So Jupiter, right, abundance, growth, resources, certainly Jupiter in Taurus is about more money, more resources, more food, more expensive, more inflation. It's something we've been seeing since the North Node was in Taurus. And it is happening at a Leo degree, so that is something connected to the stock market. So I do anticipate, especially knowing that the stock market is a Leo rising chart with a lot of Taurus in these degrees in the 10th house. I'm questioning and wondering if there's going to be a pretty significant rally from like the 18th, maybe through about like the 23rd or the 24th. I'm not a financial advisor, can't tell you guys what to do or not do, but I think that this being a full moon with that conjunction does make me feel like we're probably going to see like a little bit of like a top, maybe. I don't know, we'll see. But Jupiter makes everything bigger, right? So Jupiter conjunct Venus is sweeter, more abundant, richer. Definitely a good omen for relationships, definitely a good omen for financial investments. You know, full moons can be times where we're reaping what we've sowed. So when we have a full moon in Sagittarius, it's ruled by Jupiter. right? And Jupiter is going to be pretty much 6 houses away from this particular sign. So it can mean that we hear, oh, there's good job growth numbers, or oh, there's this thing that's up, or there is something that's becoming more valuable. So Taurus can be natural resources. It can be metals. It can have connections to copper. It can also have connections to agriculture and food. So I do think that in some ways this can indicate that there is some kind of significant growth, which can be positive. So that's worth looking forward to. And like I said, 29 degrees is about Leo energy. So it's about children and romance and creativity and also speculation and gambling. So it can definitely be a transit where I think we're going to see a little bit more luck than we typically would. And so this is why I said to you guys, if you follow the flow chart of Venus enters Taurus, it squares Pluto, something is threatened. Venus conjuncts Uranus, suddenly there's some kind of shock. There is support from Saturn where we're still stable. And once the shock wears off, then it conjuncts, Jupiter, and we realize like, oh, this is actually a good thing. We actually it pays to be prepared, I would say, with some of these transits as well. And so Taurus can be food, it can be resources, it can be cash, it can be physical things that you can trade. So a lot of this can be about people also kind of saying, I want to put a little bit of extra food in the freezer, or, I'm wanting to get some extra water, or I want to have some extra medical supplies, or I'm planting a garden. These can be some of the things that can kind of come up with this transit. Now, at the same time that Jupiter and Venus conjunct, it's going to be sextiling Neptune. And so if you notice here, we've got a couple anaretic degrees, right? 29 degrees is an anaretic degree. So it represents basically a tipping point. So it is the totality of that particular sign. So I always jokingly refer to 29 degrees of Pisces as like the craziest because it's the last degree. It's like where everything, like the curtain is falling and we're realizing that everything's been an illusion, or there is this grand kind of reveal or this grand completion because it's the last degree of the zodiac. So having Neptune at 29 degrees is going to be fun in itself. But then when we see Jupiter, which is traditionally associated with Pisces, sextiling Neptune and Venus sextiling Neptune, it can almost feel like, oh my God, this is like what I've always dreamed of. And now it's physically manifesting and it's presenting itself to me like I just can't believe it. So it can be that jaw-dropping, this thing has manifested type of feeling for some people. So that's why I think this Venus transit is actually a pretty interesting one, because it's going to be in the final moments of Jupiter and Taurus, which is about physicality and something have, been built or developed or, been, I guess, completed or paid for or, kind of collected. And then Jupiter is going to go into Gemini. Venus is going to go into Gemini, and the sun's going to be in Gemini. So then we're going to see all that energy drop into Gemini, which is more mercurial. So it's going to be more about information, communication, getting around, technology, things pertaining to media, and it's all going to start trining Pluto. In a way, even being at 29 degrees, it's starting to trine Pluto. So it's not only extra sweet and abundant, but it's powerful, right? It's transformative. It's going to transform something about our future and about our collective. So yeah, I'm interested to see this sextile that's going to be taking place when planets hit critical degrees. So it's very clear that something in regards to the Pisces area of our life is kind of being wrapped up, right? Saturn is there as well. We'll see Saturn and Neptune go back and forth between these degrees in 2025 and 2026. So it's important to familiarize yourself with the Pisces area of your chart because something is getting ready to kind of complete there. And then also take a look at what's happening in the Taurus area of your chart, because something is completing there as well, as Jupiter, Venus, and the Sun are leaving, and Uranus is going to be in the final degrees here also up until this next year. So then on the 23rd, hours later, after we have this full moon, we are going to see Venus then enter into Gemini. And then, the Venus in Taurus transit is complete, and we'll have plenty to talk about when Venus enters Gemini. Lots of double trouble there. So let me get you guys in quickly. We'll take a look at the 12 rising signs. I just want to show you where Venus is moving through your chart. If you guys are new to my channel, first of all, welcome. It's nice to get to read for you. Hopefully this has been helpful in giving you some more insight into this transit. But I am a Western astrologer. I'm not a Vedic astrologer. I'm a Western astrologer. And so for the purpose of my videos, I always like to do this with the whole sign method. And guess what? It totally works because Venus is going to be entering 0 degrees and it's going to go all the way to 29 degrees. So you can listen to your rising sign if you would like to. You can also listen to your sun sign and your moon sign. I recommend listening to all three, especially if you have any Taurus or Libra in your big three. It's going to be really important to know where this transit is happening because Venus is connected to that. I recommend listening to your rising sun and then your moon sign. Rising sign is going to tell you which area or which house this is moving through. Your sun sign is going to be more in relation to your ego, your career, your overall happiness and joy, creativity as well. And then the moon sign is more about your home or your emotions or your family, okay? Choose your own adventure. If you use Placidus, just look at where 0 degrees of Taurus is in your chart. You might have to listen to another rising sign, and you can listen to your progress chart as well. And as a reminder, once again, Taurus and Libra placements, okay? This is going to impact you more so because Venus rules your chart. All right, so let's start with my Aries and Aries risings. For you guys, you're going to be having Venus going through your second house, so it's moving through a sign that it is quite comfortable and familiar with. For you guys, Venus transiting in the second house, I think it's going to help you develop a deeper appreciation for the material world. And you're going to have a much stronger focus on financial stability, okay? What do I possess? What do I want? What do I need? How do I get grounded? And it's likely a time where you're either focusing on saving or investing. And you definitely have an eye out for, something you can collect or something that's going to be of value that you're wanting to kind of hold on to. You may notice that you just have much more of an appreciation right now for art, music, and other forms of beauty. I think it's going to be about finding pleasure in owning or sharing things with other people. And I say that because of Venus's connection to the 7th house. So it can be, oh my gosh, I just got this new album. I love it. Here, listen to it. Or, oh, I just baked all these cupcakes. Have some, something like that. Appreciation and sharing with other people is going to be a big theme. And as you get through this transit, especially towards the ends of the transit, you're going to start probably feeling good about being able to share things with people that you value, that you've cooked, that you've made. You may be feeling more generous with other people. You're like, I've been doing well this month. Here, I want to pay it forward. Something like that might be kind of coming up for you, and it looks extremely fortuitous in regards to your resources. So good luck. All right, so we've got Taurus and Taurus rising. What's up, Taurus? You're gonna love this transit. Obviously, Venus is in your sign, so you're feeling good. It's moving through your first house. This is all for me screaming like big glow up for Taurus and Taurus rising placements. The first house is the body. So Venus being in this part of the chart brings you more beauty, more appreciation, more love, right? All of these things. But in your chart, Venus also has connections to the 6th house, which is about healing, things pertaining to the body. So having Venus go through your first house is bringing a strong sense of self-assurance, particularly in matters of love and relationships. You may feel like, you're really valuing stability and comfort in your relationships right now. It might be that you're trying to create stronger bonds with other people. It might mean that you're focusing more on beauty, aesthetics, and your own personal health and relationship to yourself. You might notice that you have a much stronger desire for material and security or luxury goods. And I think there's going to be some changes to your style, basically. Primarily because, Venus is going to be meeting with Uranus. And so there's a sense of wanting to identify in a different way or wanting to show a different side of yourself to the world. And then Venus's connection to Jupiter, which is going to be about a transformation. I know a lot of Taurus placements right now are feeling very restless. And I think a lot of this is with Jupiter and Uranus just meeting and like wanting some sense of freedom. And so I think that this is going to be about showing that in a way that's very different. And it can be how you're expressing love. It can be how you're dressing, what have you. And I think you're really focusing on letting go of like old habits, old ways of speaking to yourself, treating yourself, acting, behaving, what have you, because of that connection to the 6th. New healthier habits that can be emerging here as well, and also ways of self-care. So that's what you really want to be watching for. I'm excited to see those before and after pictures, Taurus. You'll have to send them to me because that's kind of how I look at that. All right, so for Gemini and Gemini rising, you guys are going to be doing the Venus in the 12th house transit. This is going to be moving through the sign of Taurus right here. And a lot of energy moving through your 12th house of your subconscious kind of spiritual hidden side. So when Venus goes through here, it's kind of suggesting that there's going to be a deeper connection to the spiritual world and having much more of a love for solitude and introspection. Okay, I think I made the comment in my horoscopes. I'm like, you guys are just looking for like your Netflix and your snacks. 12th house Taurus says, I need to get into my comfortables and like be left alone. And so there can be that sense of kind of hermiting out and needing space from the world and loving that and indulging in that, right? In your own little kind of, bubble. It can be a time where you're more so active when it comes to spirituality, meditation, and other spiritual practices. And you might find that you're finding pleasure in just spending time alone or doing art or creative or, spiritual or religious things. There may also be a real love for, inner, kind of like exploration. And I say that because Venus is connected to the 5th house of self and self-expression and creativity. It can mean that you're, kind of locking yourself in a room and doing some hobbies or, focusing on photography, or you're just wanting to paint or create or draw more. So talents can be coming up for you right now that, you're just wanting to kind of keep private. It can mean that you're feeling more generous and more willing to sacrifice and give to those who are less fortunate, or helping those who are in need during this transit as well. This is all your subconscious. So there can also be this feeling as you're coming into birthday season pretty soon that you're like, okay, I want to kind of like let things go. I want to let go of heartbreak. I want to let go of blockages. I want to let go of insecurities. And you're moving through this with the collective. So you're kind of getting hit with the waves of everything else that's hitting in the world. And you're feeling a part of that basically. Okay. So really strong spiritual practice. I would recommend doing like meditations on love. I always recommend, Deepak Chopra did a really great album that you can find on YouTube that's all on meditations revolving around love. Check it out, maybe do a little offering for Venus on Fridays, pour a little glass of wine or have a small chocolate or some honey or something for Venus on Fridays. That can be a cool ritualistic thing with Venus in the 12th house of finding ways to kind of connect to the goddess to help her bless you as you kind of go through this rebirth time. Good luck. We've got Cancer and Cancer risings. You guys are going to be doing the Venus transit in Taurus in your natal 11th house, okay? For you guys, this is fun. This is finding pleasure with groups of people, right? With others, at parties, at celebrations, kind of with like-minded people. Good music, good food, good entertainment. I could definitely see that with the 11th house because there's going to be more of a love for social causes, and also a desire to connect with other people, but also to be a part of a cause and make a difference in the world. So you might find that you're just more active in your community, and you may be noticing that you have much more of a need for networking and building relationships with friends and other people. You may also notice that there's much more of an interest in technology and like new innovations. So when I think of Taurus in the 11th house is like, oh, I'm joining a cooking, club, or a gardening club, or I'm learning more about finances and investments through like other people and like, people who are talking on message boards and things about, stocks and investments or cryptocurrencies. I could see that because it's futuristic, right? 11th house. You're going to find bohemian people, artistic people, creative people, foodies, people who are also into kind of outdoor living with all these placements in the 11th house. And Venus is connected to the 4th house as well. So it might mean family reunions, gatherings, friends having parties, seeing family you haven't seen in a while, going away parties, people having celebrations about, buying new homes and moving. So there's going to be opportunity to kind of connect with people in that way. It can be family or friends from the past, and finding ways to kind of celebrate these like new opportunities that they're having in their life. And definitely, like I said, some good food and company in the process. Good luck, Cancer. All right, so we've got Leo and Leo rising. You're going to be doing this Venus in Taurus transit in your natal 10th house. So for you, Leo, this is moving through your career house. So this is all about being out in the world, being seen, your reputation, your status, right? So if you're retired, it's your status, it's how you're known, it's what you're doing out in the world outside of your career. This can also be like your status. Are you married? Are you separated? Are you divorced? Are you partnered? Are you an employee? Are you a CEO? So something can be kind of changing in regards to these matters as well. For you guys, the 10th house is going to be connected to having much more of a need to have, I think, pleasurable connections and relationships with professional people. Professional success and love for recognition and achievement is going to be a theme. You might find that you're feeling more ambitious when it comes to relationships with people at work. You might notice that you're taking the lead in certain situations. There may be a strong sense of responsibility and desire to also like make a positive impact on the world. Look for like allies that can be women. So it can mean that there is like a female business partnership or like a new leader at work that's a woman. It might mean that you're interested in kind of collaborating with another person. It can mean that you're bringing in some sense of art or pleasure or beauty. Maybe you're having to do some networking. That's possible here as well. Venus is connected to your 3rd house of communications. So it can mean that you're giving presentations or that you're working on, you know, the actual look and feel of a particular brand and you're rebranding something, you're making announcements, you're putting out a website. Maybe you're having to, you know, give interviews or you're having to talk to people in a very public way. So Venus going through the 10th house is generally pretty favorable for work, career, and reputation. But I'm really looking at, you know, that day that the sun conjuncts Jupiter, because that's your ruling planet, when Venus conjuncts Uranus, it might be that there is some like grand announcement. I quit my job. I started my own business. You know, I have always worked alone. Now here's my business partner. Or, you know, I've always been married, but now I'm divorced, you know, so something like that, some big announcement can be coming. That's relating to your job, your career, or your status. Okay. But still, I think it's pretty positive, right? I think it's pretty positive. I do. Good luck, Leo. All right, so we got Virgo and Virgo rising. You'll be doing Venus's transit in Taurus in your natal 9th house. Virgo, all these planets in Taurus are moving through a fellow sister Earth sign. So it's harmonious with your sun, moon, or rising. It's trining in some capacity. The 9th house is the house of positivity, of good karma, of expansion, learning, you know, and anything revolving around how you see the world. So it's generally a pretty favorable transit. Now, Venus transiting in the 9th house is about finding pleasure through education, travel, culture, right? So any of these topics. There can be a sense of you really looking for love at a distance. It can be exploring a new place. It can be, you know, a pursuit of knowledge and new understanding in some way. It can mean that, you know, you're finding pleasure in taking a course, or maybe you're saying, you know what, I'm going to upgrade my tickets to first class. It can mean that you're investing in something revolving around publishing or, you know, education. Maybe you're seeking some kind of job in education or in writing or teaching or training of some kind. For you guys, I think this is about really focusing on philosophy, religion, or a new system of belief. And you may notice that you're finding pleasure in sharing information with other people. So Venus rules your 2nd house as well, of personal resources and values. So it may mean in the realm of relationships, you're really making changes in what you believe about relationships, what you value when it comes to relationships, what you're willing to spend when it comes to relationships, how far you're willing to go. But I think for some of you guys, it's also going to be a huge theme revolving around shifts in your value system and maybe some things changing about the way that you look at, you know, money or education or travel. Really interesting stuff. I mean, obviously, you know, you got a lot of planets in the 8th house, which is about personal change right now, major transformations of who you are. And that has a huge impact on how you see the world. Right? So I think that if you have the opportunity to learn, travel, teach, share, do that. It'll likely bring you some sense of enjoyment. Good luck. We've got Libra and Libra rising. Libra, this is important for you because like Taurus, you're ruled by Venus. So Venus transits are going to be a little bit more impactful for you. This is interesting, Libra. So you've got Venus that's going to be transiting through your 8th house. Okay, so the 8th house is kind of like a Scorpio house. It's like the, you know, the Scorpio dome, even though it's Taurus. So whenever planets go through the 8th house, they go through some significant change or transformation. So there is some sense of being like, okay, this is ending, but this is emerging. You know, this is how we transmute things. So it can be psychological, sexual, financial. It can be about secrets and things that are hidden and stuff that's emerging that kind of impacts you. And the 8th house is about your karmic connection to other people and where you're entangled. Physically, financially, or emotionally seem to be the themes with Taurus in the 8th. So for you, Libra, you know, having Venus transit this house is about, I think, a deep understanding and a transformation of love and power in relationships. So you may feel like you're more so drawn to something that is having a lot of depth or more intense. It's about some kind of transformation of power. You know, remember, Venus rules your 1st house of self. So wherever Venus is what you're kind of going through. So the Venus transits of the square to Pluto, the conjunction to Uranus, the conjunction to Jupiter is very much about some kind of significant spiritual, emotional, or financial shift. And it, for some of you guys, can materialize as like, oh, breakthrough, you know, freedom. I'm finally free of this entanglement, you know, at what cost? It can also materialize as some really abundant, significant transformations where suddenly money is showing up and becoming available in ways that you didn't know, where, you know, suddenly a loan goes through, or you free yourself from debt, or you win the lottery, or you receive some kind of lump sum or inheritance, which comes out of the blue. So it'll really depend on your personal chart. But I will say with this transit, it's about transformation. And I think that this is also about realizing that you have a talent for dealing with financial matters, particularly related to inheritance or shared resources that can be beneficial. And it looks like the storyline is somehow connected to aunts, uncles, cousins, siblings. It may be an investment you made and suddenly it pays off in a big way. It could be that there is some sudden dramatic change with finances relating to a contract, something you signed, you know, maybe a vehicle or joint resources of some sort. Something else that I will say just kind of in the background is that for a lot of Libra risings, you know, the eclipse and then the retrograde and all the energies going through the 7th house does talk about some really difficult relationship stuff. And for a lot of Libra risings, it's kind of like a make or break time in relationships. And I really feel like some of the stuff that's getting worked out in the 8th house can be really beneficial for some Libra risings because it can represent, like, if you're making those changes in relationships, and whether that's merging with another person and that growth of assets, or leaving a relationship and what you receive because of that ending of a relationship, you know, either way, Libra, I see it being a little rocky, but definitely benefiting you in some way. Okay? Good luck. For Scorpio and Scorpio risings, you'll be experiencing Venus transiting Taurus in the sign of Taurus in your 7th house. Hello. Can you guys tell Mercury's still retrograde? So you have this going through your 7th house, Scorpio. So I see this as being pretty positive, to be honest with you. Venus loves being the 7th house, right? So it's kind of comfortable in this realm, although you're going to see some interesting stuff kind of going on with Venus. So Venus rules your 7th house of partnerships and relationships. It also has connections to your 12th house of the subconscious. So when Venus goes through the 7th house, it's going to suggest a strong desire for partnership and love and all things relating to relationships. So if you're single, you're much more likely to meet people. You're much more likely to attract people. You're much more likely to be going on dates and connecting and finding stability and some kind of excitement in relationships. If you're in a relationship, it can represent a time where there's much more focus on your partner or your spouse. Obviously, it's going to kind of be the inverse of the Taurus rising. So you may see a lot of that kind of in other people. You know, Venus going through the 7th house represents beautiful people coming into your life, or abundance, or clients who are willing to pay or buy things. This can be people you're attracting who would be interested in what you have to sell. But it can also represent some kind of beautiful glow up period for a partner, and they're going through some kind of significant change. I do think this is really good for negotiations and for being diplomatic with other people. I think you're going to notice that there's going to be more of a sense of harmony and balance in relationships, and people who are less likely to be combative or confrontational. Now, that goes with being said, Venus does rule your 12th house. So there is this kind of collective thing that's going on in the background where it's like,
all of your subconscious shit is coming out right now. And whether that means if there's been fears or doubts in relationships, you know, you're kind of talking about it now, there's kind of clarity. Or if there has been some sense of, you know, somebody or you holding back and not communicating and expressing what you want or what you need, now it's kind of coming forward. So you want to be mindful that with Venus being the connection to the South Node, it's like things that have been kind of lurking in your subconscious or in the background can now start kind of showing up. Undoing karmic relationship patterning seems to be a theme. Mars is in Aries, so it's in one of its home signs in the 6th house, which means you're willing to do a lot of work. You're willing to get active. You're willing to support and help other people. You're really focused on productivity and health. So I think that it's not a lack of you trying. It's more that there may either be a sense of partners needing some kind of change in relationship if you're committed and kind of going through, you know, this period of like letting them have more freedom. Or if you're single, it can be a time where, you know, as Venus is meeting with Uranus and Jupiter, that there can be big breakthroughs and suddenly it could be like love at first sight. Or hitting restart in committed relationships, you know, once you have learned how to make some pretty dramatic or sweeping changes in you know, commitments that you may already have. So it's going to depend. I'm seeing, you know, two ends of the spectrum of Scorpio rising. Some of you guys are just meeting people and then suddenly this relationship is starting up like crazy. Other people are like, I'm in a relationship with somebody and it's not working and like we're not getting along. And so you're feeling a lot of the square to Pluto where it's like something needs to change emotionally or on the home front. And you might be finding that you're actually taking space from partners. So can be sweet or salty depending on your personal aspects. But for the most part, I see whatever eruptions that come up in relationships are actually really good because it can be symbolic of your partnerships or the people that you're bringing in being more authentic to who they are. And that's a necessary kind of part of the Uranus in the 7th house transit. All right, good luck, Scorpio. Let me know how that's going for you. All right, so we have Sagittarius and Sagittarius rising. You guys are going to be doing the Venus transit in the 6th house of Taurus. So this is going to be moving through your 6th house, which is dealing with finding love for routine and stability and health and pets and the workplace. Okay, so let's talk pros. Pros is Venus really likes being in Taurus. All right, so it's going to express its energy better. Cons is Venus is going to be going through your 6th house where we don't really feel like what we're putting out there is being reciprocated. We can feel a little let down sometimes in the love department. There can be a need to work on our bodies, our relationships, our health, our schedule, our, you know, our pets, whatever. There is a sense of that that's kind of getting worked out. So once again, kind of a sweet or salty aspect for you as well. However, Venus will meet with Jupiter, which is your chart ruler, okay? So it can represent some clearing phase, some healing, some purification, some healthier habits, other things that are kind of emerging, and you may find that you're happier being at the gym, you're happier rearranging your cubicle, you're moving into a new office, you're meeting new people at work, love can be found in the workspace, all that stuff. Usually with this transit, you'll be working hard. There is a sense of talent for craftsmanship and hands-on skills. I do think that health, fitness, you know, may be bringing you pleasure or just a healthier lifestyle. It can be a time also because Venus is the ruler of the 11th house where you have friends helping you. You have friends working out with you. There's group fitness classes. There's walking your dogs together. There's having lunches together. There's working on healthier routines. And this is about building in more time for leisure into your day-to-day life. So for a lot of you guys, it's like, well, yeah, I've created that time in my schedule so I can do these things, right? So there in itself is finding the pleasure. I want to remind you that this is all happening right before Jupiter and the Sun and Venus move into your 7th house, which is a pretty damn good transit for Sag and Sag rising for relationships. So it's almost like you're having to kind of create the schedule that you want to build your life around right now. And so it's about being really involved in that process and having people around you that are supporting you making those changes, right? In the background, you know, transits through your 5th house of creativity, self-expression, joy, having fun, really is kind of saying that you're really focusing more on happiness and what's going to bring you happiness and creating a schedule that's going to promote happiness, right? Or more time for freedom or more time for health or more time for, you know, the things that you would like to be doing. So I feel like for a lot of you guys, this transit can be finally that breakthrough moment where you're like, okay, I'm getting into the groove of having, you know, made these schedule changes or these health changes. For those of you guys who have been resistant to these things, the sixth house, which is, 12th house to the seventh, can be where there is a lot of subconscious issues in relationships that are finally shaking out that need to be dealt with. So it can manifest like that as well. So let's hope it's more for positive health and changes in career and, basically clients or customers that come in and bring you flowers or they bring you gifts or, people who are, bringing in lunches and sweets and stuff at work. It might mean that you find a new, healthcare practitioner, you adopt an animal, right? Something like that can happen. And not some of the more challenging things that can come with Venus in the sixth house. Let me know, Sag. I'd like to hear from you guys too. How's it going? All right, so we've got Capricorn and Capricorn rising. You're going to be doing the Venus in Taurus transit in your natal fifth house. And this is in a fellow sister earth sign. So you'll be experiencing trines to your sun, moon, or rising, which means it's sweet. For Capricorn, I love this transit for you guys. It's so darn good. The fifth house is taking chances, romance, dating, falling in love, creativity, self-employment, gambling, children, lovers, having fun. So Venus moving through this house is a wonderful time for creative expression and desire, okay? What you're desiring, what you want to show the world. It's about getting on stage. So with this placement, you're going to have much more of a yearning for art, music, drama, and creating things of beauty. So it can be hobbies, it can be crafting, it can be, gardening, but it can also be like performing. You might be wanting to go to the theater more, wanting to go to concerts more, you want to go to art museums, or you're wanting to go to parties, bars and restaurants and stuff like that with the fifth house. It's a really strong time for somebody who's wanting to start something entrepreneurial. If you're wanting to do your own business of some kind, it can be really strong for that as well. Great for dating because it's likely to be a much more sensual and romantic time, and you're going to have more of a strong kind of need for, emotional kind of connection with other people. It's a very fertile time with Jupiter being in your fifth house and Venus being in your fifth house as well. So it can be a time where you're really focusing on children or, for fertility or having kids. That can come up here also. Now, Venus is connected to your 10th house of reputation and career. So that's why I say this is really strong for like entrepreneurial energies, because people who are like, I'm kind of wanting to quit my job, South Node and Libra. I'm wanting to go and become a performer, or I'm wanting to join the circus, or I want to launch my own business, or I want to be an artist or a makeup artist, or a sculptor. I could see, and I am seeing a lot of Capricorns and Capricorn risings that are doing this. And I think that it's going to be pretty positive during this transit, because if it's not quitting your job and joining circus, it could be something like, I started this new hobby and I really love it, and it can develop into something that can be lucrative or productive. I'm seeing people who are getting into professional gambling. I'm seeing people who are getting into ceramics. I'm seeing so much stuff. So definitely taking chances, having fun, being creative kind of comes with this. And somehow that is linked to changes in your status. So if you're one of those Capricorn risings that's like, I'm single now, this is like learning how to date and having fun with it. If this is somebody who recently retired, then you're like, okay, well now what am I doing with my free time? You're having to find like new hobbies and things to kind of participate in. So I see it being really awesome and fortuitous for you, Capricorn. I think you're actually really going to enjoy this time. Get out there and date too if you're single, because if you get out there and you socialize and you go to some of these fifth house places, bars, casinos, theaters, you'll meet someone. All right, so we've got Aquarius and Aquarius rising. You guys are going to be doing the Venus and Taurus transit in your natal fourth house. I'm curious to see how this manifests for you. There are some big things happening here. Obviously, you're ruled traditionally by Saturn, and we'll see the Venus sextile Saturn transit. And we'll also see the Venus conjunct Uranus transit. So pretty personal for you. Aquarius, this is happening in your fourth house. So the fourth house is home and family. This can be representing where you have a deep attachment to your home and family. Or that you're seeking stability and security. It might represent dramatic sweeping changes to values and traditions when it comes to your family dynamic and where you come from. You might be noticing that there is a sense of wanting to decorate or bring in art into your space. You might have more of a talent right now for creating a warm and comfortable home environment. And you may find great pleasure in cooking, gardening, or domestic activities. So many planets in your 4th house, and it's all squaring your sign. So it's interesting that Venus is going to square Pluto, where it's like, oh, we're actually creating a new dynamic. We're creating more time for pleasure. We're having downtime, family dinners. We're, taking time to go for a stroll in the neighborhood. We are focusing more on getting grounded in home and domestic things, and whether that's building a home and relocating, or if this is just slowing your life down. That square to Pluto represents being like, how are you responding to this change, right? And then you're going to see Venus come in conjunction with Uranus, which means you might actually be like, actually, I kind of like this. This is good for me. I'm enjoying some of the changes that are going on. I think for a lot of you guys, that connection to Venus in the 9th house is that you're imagining your life in another location. Maybe you're considering a cross-country move. Maybe you're wanting to relocate to another, country altogether. Maybe you are building a home in another location. Maybe you are going and visiting a partner who you're in a relationship somewhere else, or you're going and visiting family somewhere else. There's something changing about roots and home. And I have Venus and Uranus in the 4th house natally, so there can be like this sense of like not feeling like you have roots, and that can come up. But there can also be the sense of being like, well, there's something beautiful about being able to kind of say, hey, home is where the heart is, home is where I am. And so you're possibly going to find ways to say, I can take these little knickknacks and little possessions and things that I value with me anywhere that I go and create a home. And so maybe that's, part of the lesson that you're going to be going through. But certainly I think once Venus starts reaching Uranus, because you're receiving the blessing of, women from further away, or some kind of direction from women, or some kind of philosophical or spiritual shift in the way that you look at home and family, you're going to realize, oh, this is a good change, right? And it feels good to kind of get grounded and to kind of have like a new space that's growing and developing into something. And then you'll see, obviously Jupiter and Venus go into your 5th house and trine Pluto. So some of these dramatic sweeping changes are things like new people moving in, or relocations, or you're rearranging the home to better, take care of a kid, or a baby is coming, or, there's big news in regards to one of your children. Something like that is going to be happening. For a lot of you guys, you're creating more space to be able to have parties and socialize and kind of connect with other people, and you're focusing on building community. And that could be all of the sweetness and the abundance that you're kind of creating. But that's the focus for the future right now, is how can I create more community and find a space that feels like home? Very interesting stuff. Pretty sweet for you. So let me know what happens. And we have Pisces and Pisces rising. So you guys are going to be doing the Venus and Taurus transit in your natal 3rd house. Okay, so this is about communications and learning and ideas. Pretty sweet for you as well, because you're going to see Venus sextile Saturn in your sign. So you're overlooking, how you're communicating and talking about what you love, where you're going, what you're learning, relationships with siblings or with neighbors. Maybe you're writing more, communicating more, learning more, and focusing more on your speech and your ideas and your communication. But when you have this transit, moving through the 3rd house, I think there's more of a love for learning and a desire to acquire knowledge in a structured manner. You're likely going to notice that there's more of an appreciation for either other languages, or you just have a better memory for details. And you may also be focusing on writing or speaking in a much more influential manner, especially when it comes to like expressing your communications or your feelings. So I could definitely see like more thank you notes going out, or appreciation emails, or, shout out posts, things like that that are kind of coming through your 3rd house, because it's about information and communication. Venus rules your 8th house of transformation and relationship to other people and joint resources. So there can be a sense of like, other people sending you that check finally in the mail that they owe you. It can be about neighbors and siblings coming over and bringing you sweets and appreciation, or being there for you in your time of need, or people calling you and offering you some kind of love or appreciation. Especially Venus coming into conjunction with Jupiter. I definitely think that there can be an email, a phone call, a letter, finally squashing something, or paying somebody back, or finally, apologizing, or, healing from something and having some kind of an exchange that makes you feel better. So Venus coming into conjunction with Jupiter is really positive for that. I also think that, the sextiles to Saturn is about you learning how to really say what you mean and mean what you say. And I think you're being a little bit more cautious about what you write, think, and speak into fruition. So there can be this sense of being like, okay, when it comes to communication, I'm only speaking positively. I'm only bringing in the positive. I'm only manifesting the positive and really holding yourself accountable for how you're thinking. So, pleasure can be found in listening to self-help podcasts. Pleasure can be found listening to, these while you're driving or while you're walking outside. It can mean that you're buying self-help books. It can mean that you're also using apps and things that are, teaching you about cooking, or teaching you about health, or maybe teaching you about finances and investments. I think the conjunction to Uranus and Jupiter is really trying to get you more so aware of your subconscious and what you're actually thinking and speaking, and the fact that that has a huge influence on what actually physically manifests. So bettering yourself and learning or reading are some of the things that I would really focus on throughout this transit. Yes, some of you guys will get new cars. You will deck out your cars with some stuff. Maybe you'll splurge on some short distance travel. Maybe you'll get a new laptop or a computer or something, right? That might be something that you're considering. It looks like you've been kind of working out something revolving around your finances and your resources. For others, it's going to materialize as moving, and that it's finally making that kind of jump and being like, okay, I'm moving into a nicer neighborhood, or I'm moving into a bigger space, or, I am finally, upgrading my vehicle. All of those things can happen with these transits in the third house. All right. So hopefully that's helpful for you, Pisces. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I love making videos on positive transits. It's a nice break from what's happened over the last month. So I'm excited to see how this unfolds. Don't forget to leave me a comment. Let me know below. Is it your Venus return? Are you seeing some of these things already? Are you planning some of these things with Venus going into Taurus? Think of it as, the April showers are bringing the May flowers. So whatever has been kind of going on that's been, creating some tears or some other issues or some frustrations in April, this Venus transit is actually going to bring some really beautiful stuff. Like, comment, share, and subscribe. I will be back here on Friday, tomorrow. We're going to be doing live tarot readings. Check out the link in my community tab if you guys want to sign up for a reading. And make sure to subscribe so you can be on the up and up with what's going on with the astrology for the rest of this month. I hope you guys enjoy this. I'll catch you back here next time. Take care.